Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I call the Honourable Joe Goodhue.
Mr. Chair, I thank you for the opportunity to bring us back to the bill. And I do so and just want to traverse a little bit of the history. I want to acknowledge the work that the Select Committee has done. And largely what we've heard here this evening is that the Select Committee is largely in agreement about the way forward. So the problem that this bill seeks to solve, and I acknowledge that previous speakers have talked about it taking a jolly long time to get us as far as we've got. So in terms of the sector, the agricultural compounds sector, the veterinary medicine sector, they're very, very keen to get this passed, but it has evolved over the time when there's been consultation with the sector and prior to bringing this bill to the House. Data protection is really, really important. It provides time for the businesses to recoup the costs of what it cost them to bring that data protection into the field of play in order to get registration and be able to have their product in New Zealand. So New Zealand misses out. Why? Well, we miss out because we're a small country with quite a small market, and therefore it's quite late in the patent protected period that a company will try and give New Zealand the benefit of a product that will help our agricultural sector. So New Zealand has been very, very keen to have access to the sort of medicines and also compounds that are available to other agricultural nations that are much bigger than ourselves, and this bill seeks to bring that about. I have to say very clearly to the House that despite the previous speaker's rhetoric, this is not a Trojan horse for dangerous compounds to get into the country. This is simply about evening the business playing field for our primary production industry. I want to just use a couple of examples, and I want to, generating supporting data is really expensive. So estimates range between $10,000 to $500,000 for research studies. So the company bringing a new product to the market is certainly going to want to recoup that. It's also very important that I refer back to the fact that we're not talking about patents, we're talking about data protection on a compound that is likely quite late in its patent life. Now, I want to answer some of the questions that have been asked by previous speakers. Does this legislation apply to Pacific countries? I think it's important that we assert to the member who raised this, we are talking about agricultural compounds and veterinary medicines, not health products or medicines like that. This legislation, this legislation extends the period during which MPI in New Zealand cannot use data provided in one application for registration to assess another application. That is the crux of what we've got here. I also want to address the SOP by the Green Party member. So just to be clear for the House, Section 20 lists the matters that the Director-General must take into account when deciding on an application for registration. This includes, it already requires the Director-General to take into account all relevant scientific and technical information and any submissions received, including from consumer groups. This SOP is simply unnecessary. So I thank the House very much for the considered way this has been discussed here tonight, and I hope that we can move this forward because the sector have certainly waited a very long time for it.